September coming up, we're looking at the National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and Perfecting Destiny is doing what we can do to help combat teen suicide. And what we do, Dr. Outlaw, we kind of teach our teens how to live free from drugs, alcohol, how to live free from teen pregnancy, low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, those kinds of things that just might lead to a teen in their own lives. So what I want you to do today, I'm going to just let you have the floor. I want all of the information that you can give me any time that you can give it to me about what you will be sharing at our Say the Date at our Suicide Prevention Month event. And that is going to be September 25th, 2021 at the Pearson Park right here in Kinston. And we'll be there from 1 to 4. And Dr. Outlaw is going to be with us sharing some information that you will not want to miss. Dr. Outlaw, if you introduce yourself to our audience and just take right off, that'll be wonderful.
Okay. So I'm Dr. Outlaw, originally from Kinston. I do live in a little town over called LaGrange, in case if it's airing, outside of Lenore County. I graduated from Kinston High School in '96. I've been a practicing therapist for over 10 years. I got my PhD in 2019 in rehabilitation studies. I was the first Black woman to graduate from a PhD program. I'm also an elected official in the county. I was the first Black woman to serve on the Board of Education. I teach human services courses over at Pitt Community. I also teach social work courses at East Carolina. I teach rehabilitation studies courses at Utah State. I also am the curriculum coordinator for the sports certification in social work at Ball State. And so I teach a lot of crisis intervention classes that are pertinent to suicide prevention. And so for the last couple of years, we're always doing, like cross-referencing training with our, with the Substance Abuse Practice Board, the Licensed Clinical Social Worker, board. I mean, all sorts of ways for us to CEUs, basically, which are, continuing education units, which are ways for us to maintain knowledge in our areas of expertise, really. But the landscape of suicide, I'll say, has changed a lot significantly over the past 10 years since I've been practicing. I graduated from East Carolina's Master's in Social Work program back in 2010, and that's when I started practicing. And at that time, white males were leading the way in terms of committing suicide a little bit more so than any other racial group in this country. But now, and that demographic back then was also, maybe middle-aged white males, maybe white males who were having issues coping with depression, maybe feeling like they had like so much of the world on their shoulders, and they were committing suicide at rapid rates. But not just that, but they were committing suicides very violently. They would choose to end their life with maybe a shotgun or just various means of violence, whereas women would choose to typically end their lives, more quietly, like with maybe taking sleeping pills. But what we had came to discover back then was they would hang themselves, they would shoot themselves, just a more violent act of taking their lives. But now we see that very quietly, the CDC released a report back in, I think it was 2018, 2017, that Black males between the ages of 5 through 12 are killing themselves more than any racial group in this country. And right behind them, or gaining on them, are transgenders. And so we need to know who it is. We need to have a target. We need to target that audience, if you will, unfortunately, and look at what is going on environmentally, what's going on socially, what's going on probably in this social economic status of these groups that are causing them to want to kill themselves at a very rapid rate. But what is concerning is, like I said, 10 years ago it was white males that were much older, but the leaders of the pack now are black males, young black males, 5 to 12 years old, and it hardly gets any kind of uh, notoriety. I don't want to say notoriety. I'm sorry. Publicity.
Awareness,
Because of who it is. Yeah, and that's really alarming. That it's black males, and a lot of people don't know that. That's one of those taboo subject areas in our communities too. Whereas we don't like to talk about suicide as much as we should, because for whatever reason we don't think that we're doing it, and we are.
Let me interrupt you right there a minute, Dr. Outlaw. You made a very, very profound statement. We don't like to talk about it. And I think that's part of the problem. It looks like to me, if we're not talking about it, we're not dealing with it. You mentioned about, the numbers and what's happening right now. And I did note that you interchange suicide and ending one's life. In my studies and in my traveling with people and talking about it, some people don't want to even say the word suicide. They want us to, everything is politically correct or incorrect.
Yeah.
And they say that if you say commit suicide, it's like the person has, committed a crime or done something unthinkable and those kinds of things. And I think it's all kind of like a mindset. And if you say ending one's life, it sounds a little less harsh, if I can make it sound like that. But I think that's been the problem. That's why we are Perfecting Destiny is trying really hard to make people aware. If we don't talk about it, and I think research has said one time before, a long time back, probably before you started to wear all these different hats and learn about it, people were saying that you don't need to talk about it, because if you talk about it, then the teenagers, there's a higher probability that they'll do it. And now we've learned that that is totally not true.
No, they're doing it.
In order to deal with anything, I think we're going to have to talk about it. And we appreciate you again talking with us about that.
Yeah, I appreciate talking to you. And that's kind of hogwash, honestly, because even if we don't talk about it, as you can see, they're still doing it. I remember too, there were a lot of parents that were very, very angry that Netflix had a show, I think it was called 13 Ways to Die. And a lot of teenagers were watching that show, and as a result, some of them were taking their own lives. And a lot of parents became outraged about, they blamed Netflix, and I think the show eventually was taken off. But I know there was a lot of controversy met with the show being on the air, well, being on Netflix, sorry. And we have to stop blaming everything and everybody for what is happening and just start addressing the problem, because there is numerous reasons. There is not one particular reason why a person chooses to commit suicide or end their life. Could be several factors that are going on. And one of the things that we need to understand is that, you can say that things are going to get better for a person, but if a person just doesn't believe that living longer is going to make their problems better, they're not going to accept that as an answer. And so we really have to have crisis intervention specialists on hand to help address those issues in that way, because it may not get better because they live longer. and there needs to be some honesty, and that needs to be put in. And what I mean by that is that, you know, we don't want to sell people a fairy tale either, that life is going to be perfect because they decide not to kill themselves. And I am in no way endorsing suicide. That's not what I mean. But what I am saying is that we have to do a better job as helping professionals at helping people cope with what is dealt in front of them, the life that they have. We have to try to help them or assist them in making life manageable for them to go through it. And that's one of the keys to, you know, unlocking that door and trying to help people not commit suicide. You know, we all want to preserve life because life is precious, life is fragile, life is a vapor, life is all of those things that we coin the terms as. But at the same time, you know, people, you know, we're going through a pandemic. The economy is not very good. Um, you know, life is just, you know, we've watched a lot of people die. A lot of people are just, you know, kind of like just on pause because of what's been happening. And they don't know how to go. They don't know how to go on. And we have the last year as a country haven't known how to go on. And, you know, when we've tried to move on, then things got worse. Now we're on our third wave of COVID, right? So it's really the same thing when we're asking a person who's having problems to continue to go on, but we're not offering really any support. We're just saying, don't commit suicide, don't do this, don't do that. And we're preaching essentially to them about, you know, staying alive, but we're not providing support or help on how to help them to live this life that they have come to know that is theirs.
That's one of the things that we're trying to do. That's one of our goals at Perfecting Destiny Empowerment Services, working with our teams. One of our goals is to give them tools. We're looking at Stop, Drop, and Live Suicide Awareness Prevention Day. And we're looking at gathering people together, gathering resources, experts like yourself and others to talk about what do I need to do or how can I get past this. We just had a leadership conference that we had teams, and we talked about affirmations, those kinds of things. We talked about everything we do in our workshops and our conferences, and those things is to helping our teams to get to a space in life that they can live comfortable and that they can enjoy living. One of the things one of the little boys talked about was there is a solution to every problem. If we could get all our teenagers on that same frame of mind, we're looking at decreasing opportunities for ending their lives. So everything we do, we just want everybody to know that it is geared toward making you aware. And you just mentioned about the 13 ways to die. The parents were really not happy about that. And I can kind of see why. I can kind of see both the pros and the cons. But the problem is if we don't address it, and that was one of the things we here at Perfecting Destiny, we made a decision this year. If we save one life, we're going to gather our resources together and make the community aware of what we can do with our teens and young adults and everybody else that is thinking about ending their lives. So
I mean, and I mean, you know, and I actually watched an episode of that show with my students, you know, and it is it's actually telling the story backward. You know, this young man I think it was a young man, it took his life. It's been a few years now, and he starts to tell what led up to it, you know, and there was just like some mitigating factors going on in his life that kind of led up to it. But the other thing is just that, you know, people kind of romanticize committing suicide too. Like, you know, the Golden State Bridge is still it is the top place in the world for people to go and commit suicide. And what they do is they romanticize jumping off the bridge and, their bodies, falling into this, this beautiful, you know, set of water, body of water, and they think that they're going to die instantly, and sometimes they don't. That is a horrible, horrible way to go. And because there have been people who have survived that suicide attempt, and those people had severe broken bones. Some of them were left in the water, and they had like a lot of water in their lungs, and they couldn't move because, when they hit the water upon impact, everything shattered for them. So, like they don't talk about obviously that because they're so busy trying to, take the option of you, obviously killing yourself there. But there are people all across the world that go to the Golden Gate Bridge, which is why they have, I think, net supports now on the bridge, so that it can prevent people from going there and jumping off. And they also have officers and they have crisis intervention specialists that are on the bridge, because it's become one of those havens where people just are like, I'm just gonna go here and end it, But what people need to understand is that for some people, suicide is a resolution to a problem. They feel like that once, some of them feel like that once they do this or when they do this, that everything that they have going on will just end.
Mm-hmm.
And it will, because they're going to end their life. But what they don't understand is that there are alternatives to, certain things that if they just knew about this, or if they could do that, or if they had this resource here, that maybe it would have been a different alternative.
Right.
But sometimes the pressure is just so unbearable for some people, they just can't wait. And the other caveat to it is that, again, as I stated to you yesterday, yes, a lot of people who commit suicide are, they go through what we call maybe a clinical depression cycle. Sometimes they're diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I mean, it could be any mental health disorder first and foremost. But as I stated to you, once they come up with this solution and this is their final answer, and this is going to be just that, they're not this sappy, depressed person that people think, and the signs are just like not there anymore. I mean, we look, there are signs for people like, giving things away. They do things to they kind of, cue you that, hey, this person could be suicidal, because they just start talking real dark sometimes. And then, like I said, they start giving away precious possessions, that they would normally do. But also what people need to understand, usually more than often than not, they go through this burst of happiness that nobody ever sees coming. And that's when people let their guards down and they think everything is okay with that person. And that's when that person commits suicide, not when they're, lying around the house, not eating, not bathing, or whatever. Usually is when they get up and moving and you think everything is back to normal, and then they take their own life. And people are like, how? They were doing so well. It's kind of like, a lot of people feel like that when a person has been in a hospital and they're sick, and then all of a sudden they get better, but the prognosis is not good. And then they get this burst of healing and they start doing well. Well, my mom says, she's very religious, and she said, in her opinion, God doesn't want you at your worst. So he, before you go to heaven, he fixes you to become your best again. And so we let our guards down and we're like, okay, this person is coming home and this person is better, right? But then they die and everybody's shocked.
Dr. Outlaw, you know what has been the real question in my mind is, how can we as a society, as therapists and our school counselors and everybody that deal with our teens, and other people. And when I say teens, that is just my target audience. I'm certainly concerned about everybody.
Right.
But how can we don't have the right questions to ask. We don't, sometimes we don't know what to look for. And that's another reason why we decided to do the Stop, Drop, and Live Suicide Prevention Awareness Day.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be giving parents and others some tools to use on that day. We'll be telling you how to ask the question that you probably would not think about asking. If you knew how to ask, are you thinking about ending your life?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole conversation piece. We've got to talk about it. That's my goal. That's the goal of the Suicide Prevention Awareness Day, is to get people to communicate about it.
It's hard though, because this is a different generation too. And you saying your target audience is, like younger or teenagers. And what they do is they tend to take everything to social media. So they'll tell their parents that everything is okay, but social media maybe knows something completely different. Like I always say, that's their diary, because they don't look at it like it's a personal thing that they're sharing, because this generation has always been taught to share on social media versus when I was growing up, we sat around the dinner table, we had more interpersonal relationships than most people did. And I would just say to that, Miss Williams, is that people need to just read more studies about how to prevent suicide and what are the signs to look for in this generation, because it's very tricky, because they didn't grow up like we did. Like bullying is so paramount in their generation through social media means. Like when we got bullied, it was just, people saying stuff in class, but now they have a whole World Wide Web that can assist them with that, whole thing, which makes bullying 10 times worse. And I hear people in my generation and in other generations say, well, these kids are weak. They're being bullied. The bullying is not on the scale like it was when we went to school. And I graduated, like I said, in 96. So it's definitely, we just have to look at everything in a different lens and in a different light. And it's getting together with top-notch professionals, is reading research and making sure that we're being educated. It's doing what you're doing, which is providing an informational platform or psychoeducational platform for the community to come out and to listen to the information. It's doing those things so that parents can, have that open dialogue with their kids.
Now, Dr. Outlaw, before you leave us, can you help me invite the one group of people that don't seem to get as involved as they need to when we're talking about our mental health issues? Sometimes, we like to hide behind the church. Would you help me to invite our pastors and our lay members and people out? And I love the Lord. I do. And I believe God as a healer. I believe all of that. And I know that he's got other routes and other areas for us to be healthy. And
we got several people in therapy who wear, like I got somebody's therapist shirt on today. But we got several people who perform therapy that have, like, you can have Jesus and you can have a therapist too. And that's true. I mean, nobody is definitely trying to slight the duties or the jobs of a pastor, but don't slight us either, because we're trained in this. We know this stuff, or we should. I'll say that now. Let me, but our knowledge base is, we expand our knowledge base or expound on our knowledge base yearly. And we're professionals. And my cousin is actually a pastor of a church in Kinston called Hull Road. And Pastor Williams, she does have, or she used to anyways, have like mental health professionals available if her congregation needed to see someone for, mental health issues. And the thing is that if you're sick, at least I hope you would, if you're not feeling well, you're going to go to the doctor. Yes. And it's the same thing, that if you're not feeling well, if your attitude isn't well, or you don't feel, at ease about anything, you should go and talk to someone that's objective, someone that's not biased, not just your social media friends who are going to just when you post a post, you're not really providing an adequate point of view, and they're left to just kind of lean on what you say. You need someone that's going to support you, but also provide you with resources and help, professional help that can be beneficial to you in your long run, and it's going to, eventually help you feel better.
So having said that, we are inviting, we would love our pastors to make sure that your parishioners get here that Saturday morning. We chose a Saturday morning, and we know people are busy, but we wanted to take those couple of hours to help our families, our churches, our organizations, our people to understand what's going on with our teens and other people that are thinking about ending their lives. And what we are a nonprofit organization right here in this great city of Kinston, and we've organized that Suicide Prevention Awareness Day for our citizens and our guests all around to come and meet our mental health professionals, come and learn and hear something that you didn't know before. And you might get an opportunity to meet some suicide survivors and some other interested organizations. We want to share our resources and promote suicide prevention awareness for all of us. So we do appreciate you spending this amount of time with us. And Dr. Outlaw, there might be something else that you want to say to our audience. Just know, audience, that you can meet Dr. Outlaw Saturday, September 25th at Pearson Park right here in Kinston. And she'll be with us with some other professionals and experts in the areas of mental health and helping us with our depression and those kinds of things. And during that day, we will have maybe a little bit of entertainment during the arts. The arts is what helped us so much with our mental health and our social and emotional being, the writing, the poetry, the speaking, those kinds of things. So we'll be addressing that for our younger people. We're trying to target what would help them. So we do know that 1 3-step intervention program. Stop, think about it for a minute, drop the method of your intention, whatever it might be, of ending your lives, the guns and the alcohol, those kinds of things, opioids, and live, meaning call somebody. If you think you need some help, call the hospital, call that hotline number, tell somebody. And when we say live too, we're teaching our teens and young people to live more positively, to start the affirmations, start the journaling process, start doing vision boards of where you want your life to be, those kinds of things. And looking at videos that would teach you things and that would take your mind to a better place. We teach them all kinds of things, and it will benefit. So we want you to have the last say, and we will see all of you September 25th from 1 to 4 here at Pearson Park. It's the Stop, Drop, and Live Suicide Prevention Awareness Day.
I would just say for me, and this is to anyone, mental health obviously matters, and we got to do a better job at fighting the stigma. But I always leave my clients and my students because they want to work in this field, and burnout is very high. After 5 years or 3 to 5, actually, some people leave the field because it's just so much. But what I always tell people is to indulge themselves in self-care. Make sure you take care of yourselves. Do something, even if it's just for 20 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes or so, something that you want to do, just you, something that you truly enjoy, and just tune everything out for that moment. And, and just, write or go to a movie, play a video game, whatever it is you enjoy. And, just do your best to try to take care of yourself. Take self-care time for you. It's very, very important. And I don't think people really know how important self-care is to the regimen until it's, too late sometimes.
I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all of
Appreciate you having me. Appreciate you too.
all the nuggets you have dropped. We've been taking them, and we will certainly have this replay for people that it was just you and I this morning and getting our thoughts together. And we'll share it with some other people because we want them to come in. We want them to hear what you've already said, and we want them to know that when they get there, it's going to be much, much more. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Dr. Outlaw. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not for just only this opportunity today, but for everything that you do. When you started
Thank
out,
you very much.
you had a long list of hats that you wear. I applaud you.
I appreciate it.
You're young.
I do appreciate it.
full
I
of
didn't even say
energy.
I forgot my kids. I have children.
Hey,
Don't tell them I forgot them.
we won't. We won't. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank
I
you.
look forward to seeing you.
All right. See you.
Okay.
Bye bye.